Hi everyone, I'm excited for today's review since this is one of my favorite shows. Today I'll be talking about the Netflix show Never Have I Ever. I think this show is fantastic, but that's not really the point of the video. What we really need to know is if this show is okay for your kids. Never Have I Ever is a Netflix original created by Mindy Kaling, and its third season came out in 2022. The plot revolves around Devi Vishwakumar as she navigates her high school years and all of the awkward, embarrassing, and terrifying things that go along with that. She's a shy, not very popular Indian kid, still recovering from her father's death, but has set her sights on the most popular kid in school and eventually manages to win him over. The show has received a lot of praise, not only for its excellent storytelling, but also for its true representation of South Asian people in America. This show reminds me a lot of My So-Called Life, if you're old like me and remember that show from the 90s. They deal with touchy subjects like sex and drinking through the lens of a young teen trying to figure out who she's going to be among all this peer pressure and self-doubt. Before I get to the ratings, I'll remind you again that these are just my opinions and you might completely disagree. I'm just hoping to give you a quick overview of what to expect in the show so you can make your own decisions. Okay, let's get to it. Starting with cost, we have another Netflix show here, so no additional cost if you have that service. This gets a 0 rating. Same thing with violence. I didn't find anything specifically violent in the show. The closest I saw were flashbacks of Devi's dad's death and when Paxton gets hit by a car. There isn't anything graphic though, so I'll give this another 0. For the topic of whether the show is annoying, I'd phrase it more as awkward than annoying. I really recommend watching this show with your kid. I think it's perfect for bringing up some questions your kid probably has or will have. That being said, there's some pretty cringy scenes and embarrassing topics. In addition to the many scenes about sex that we'll get to in a minute, the show also discusses death, eating disorders, underage drinking, insecurity, peer pressure, and more. So be ready for some awkward conversations. I don't think that's a bad thing though, so I'm going to set this to low. Let's move on to language. There's definitely bad language in the show, but I think it's the typical stuff you'd hear from high schoolers. Shits and bitches, a few F words sprinkled in. I didn't find it to be outrageous, and it's nothing new that your kid hasn't heard before. I guess this needs to go to a medium. The big topic here, of course, is the sex. Sex is a major topic of concern for virtually all the characters. There's talk of sex and sex positions. Characters are exploring their sexuality and lots of makeout scenes. There isn't nudity other than topless males and no actual sex scenes. What I like about the show is I feel like they do a really realistic job of describing how teens really feel about sex. One of the major plot lines throughout all 3 seasons of the show is Devi's virginity. She's super eager to lose her virginity, and at the start of the show, seems like it'll be no big deal. But as the show progresses and opportunities actually present themselves, she's a lot more hesitant. Characters who do have sex or enter into relationships experience both positive and negative consequences from them. The characters make very real mistakes, like choosing boys over their friends, entering into relationships for the wrong reasons, or cheating on their partners. And on the show, these mistakes have real consequences. So yes, there is a lot of sexual content, but I think it's done in a thoughtful way that provokes conversation. Anyway, with all that said, I'll put the sex meter halfway up. Okay, so we made it through all the ratings. Let's take a look and see where we ended up. There is quite a bit of sexual content on the show for sure, but really it's more spoken about than actually shown. Same thing with profanity, it's kind of middle of the road. It's not great, but it's not terrible. This is another show where I like it so much that I want everyone to watch, but I'm trying to be realistic about who the show is appropriate for. For my final verdict, I'll say 12 and up with parental supervision. I think like I said, it's a great show to watch with your kids. If they're off watching on their own, the age should probably be a little bit older. I know we want to keep our kids away from these mature topics, but I think the storylines in Never Have I Ever are written in a way that helps your kids learn and understand things that they will be faced with. And it does it in a very realistic way. Netflix has rated the show as 14 and up, so I'm not too far away from that by saying 12. Do you guys agree? Am I biased because I love Mindy Kaling and John McEnroe? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos on what games, shows, channels, and more are okay or not okay for your kids. See you next time.